Well, let's get the latest on Europe now, where the dangerous game of chicken is pushing Greece closer and closer to an outright default. With the bailout on hold and the meeting of Europe's finance ministers postponed, it's all getting uncomfortably close to the March 20th deadline, when €14.5 billion in loans to Greece are due for repayment. And of course, the Greeks have no money. Rumours are swirling that hardliners within the remaining AAA-rated countries are wondering whether Greece will ever come good on its promises, and letting it go might be a better option. Well, I'm joined from London now by Westpac senior economist James Shugg. Well, James, what happened last night to make the EU finance ministers cancel the meetings that they were due to have in Brussels to ratify Greece's bailout?
Yeah, Tiki, good evening. The issue was that the chairman of that meeting, Junckers, he rang around and judged that there just wasn't going to be a consensus achievable as soon as Wednesday tonight. So the decision was taken to have a conference call a little bit later and to review the situation then. I think you're right. I mean, there's a lack of conviction that Greece will actually follow through on its commitments to budget austerity, which would then bring the budget deficit down to a point such that the bailout, the €130 billion bailout, would be sufficient for them. Now, what we've heard is that the leaders of two political parties in Greece have agreed to sign the document committing to stick to the austerity measures after the April elections, but even that hasn't been enough to convince the Europeans yet.
What about the guy that is leading the party that should win the April election in Greece, Antonis Samaras? He's indicated he might try and renegotiate the bailout conditions.
Well, you see, that's exactly the concern that the hardliners have in Europe. I mean, the German finance minister, Schäuble, he's been very open. He even said that, Europe is better prepared for a Greek default this year than it would have been 2 years ago. That could be brinksmanship. He could be just saying that, to play hard line so that Greece does come up with yet more measures. But at the same time, I've got to make the point, as I've done before, these measures will continue to weaken an already devastated economy. The economy shrank 7% over the year to December. It's entering its fifth year of recession. Unemployment is now more than 20%. Greece does not have the ability to raise the taxes and generate the revenues to sort this problem out. So I think that they need to be a little bit more gentle with Greece.
Well, as you say, those last quarter, that 7% rate that you mentioned in the last quarter for Greece, that shrinkage, that's worse than the Troika, the EU, the Central Bank and the IMF actually expected. Does that mean that there is now a push, more of an acceptance that default is the better way to go and an exit?
Look, we've had bailout after bailout. The numbers have been consistently worse than the EU was expecting. We've made this point, we've been talking about this for months now, and we've always said we'll be back talking about it again in the next few months. So I think at some point it may be that the Greece will be let go. Probably not as soon as March, but it certainly is a real risk, a probability even probably before the end of this year.
And ironically, I see those growth figures for Germany and France. France has a little bit of growth, but Germany's shrinking. That must make the French feel quite pleased with themselves.
Well, yes, that's right, although it was certainly slower than the previous quarter, and Germany, as you say, possibly already in recession. The broader Euroland figures we haven't seen yet, but our concern at Westpac is that we're going to see a 1% contraction in European growth through the next year. That certainly isn't factored in by any of the official family, the ECB, the EU Commission and so on. So I think there's still plenty of potential for bad news ahead in Europe. And there's a lot more work for the European Central Bank to do as well.
James Shugg, thank you very much for talking to us tonight.
Thanks, Tiki.